oftentimes you'll see people talk about, is someone an emotionally safe person? Is this relationship safe, etc.? But this week, we flip the script and talk about how you can be a more emotionally safe person.
That we do. So, good morning to all my emotionally safe listeners out there.
And good morning to everybody else.
Carlie, are you okay today?
I am more than okay. I was trying to think of a great word.
Oh, brother.
I'm very
think of some
peaceful
vocab.
and exuberant today. How are you today, Alexia?
Exuberant. I don't know. I'm just hungry right now. I ain't gonna hold y'all. Getting kind of hungry. No, but things are good. Shout out to my friends who got married last week that you're listening to this. So we have been out of town, all the friends out of town. I like a good out of town wedding because it's just like, fun somewhere else.
Playing with your rounds.
Yeah, so everything's good. It's good to see your people happy and having a good time. Yeah. And so speaking of having a good time, this week's questions from the couch, we asked it a couple of weeks ago. We asked, when someone passes you the aux in the car, what song do you play first?
And I ain't gonna hold you. I'm a little bit surprised by some of these answers. So
it's giving a lot of Texas. I ain't gonna hold y'all. That's why I was like, oh, y'all some Bamas.
Ooh,
Y'all some Bamas listening to this podcast. We got Aquemini, Outkast, so old head from the South. Mm-hmm. Which, if I remember who did these, probably
Atlanta.
Colossal, Future, Southern, okay.
Stick 'em Up by Luda and UGK.
South.
Followed by Still Tippin' on Fofos by Mike Jones.
Private Landing, okay, finally
Don
a
Toliver,
little West
that's
Coast.
not,
I like
yeah.
Don Toliver.
I love Don Toliver.
So far,
He's
that's
great.
probably my best one for like the first thing. Ghetto Gods, Earth Gang. That's
J. Cole people.
Charlene. So yeah, she giving Cocoa Butter vibes. So that makes sense.
This one, My Heart Will Go On by Celine Dion.
Yes. So this was actually Kyle, my friend who just got married. He said that, but he's probably trying to be funny, but it was weird because he said that, and I was like, actually, I was just singing this song like a few minutes ago. I would never put that on in the car though. Off-White Whoop, Sada Baby, shout out Detroit.
Pure Imagination, Gene Wilder.
I never want to hear that in the car, so I don't know why y'all did that. It's a great song, but I never want to hear that in the car.
And then Thundercat.
Yeah, I like that direct song. How does it go? That dun, 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 dun. So fun fact. Well, maybe I should say this, but fun fact.
You shouldn't.
Okay.
Nothing happened. Next. Okay, so
wait. So wait, if I would go with actually the Thundercat or like Private Landing on this. And if I was playing like a song, I would probably go like a Tori Mar, something like kind of.
I like Jungle. I would play Jungle something.
What's Jungle?
I was trying to find like with the names. I don't know names of songs,
that's the
y'all.
name
That's
of the
them.
song?
No, that's the name of the group. Jungle. They're kind of like cool vibe. I'll send it to you. They're kind of cool. Like just. She used to make the eye roll.
So, low-key, I was thinking like, oh, we could put this in the playlist, but nah. So.
Oh, that's cute. I mean.
So moving on. No. Nah, we not going from Still Tipping to Pure Imagination.
I mean, why not? That's
the
another
vibes
Tuesday.
are not fully there. I don't know. Sometimes you never know, and it depends on your mood, like
absolutely
what you're trying to do. Because every once in a while, like if I hop in somebody's car, I might put on some random like Throwback Plies. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it depends. Like we all old heads. If we went to college at the same time, sometimes you do a throwback, and sometimes people really want like super new stuff. So that's why I'm like, y'all got it.
Look, sometimes people want really obscure stuff.
Yeah,
and you gonna get in the car and hear some lo-fi with no words.
Not too lo-fi, but yeah.
Bookstore vibes.
So anyway, thank y'all for y'all's contributions, even though y'all's trying to be kind of funny. Today we are talking about being emotionally safe, and like Carlie said at the beginning, a lot of times we always talk about how we want to find somebody who's emotionally safe, or we like to feel emotionally safe in our relationships, but I think it's important too, like, to keep it real, and like sometimes we're not as emotionally safe for other people as we could be, and so to kind of be retrospective or introspective probably, and look at ourselves and think about ways that we can be better partners, better friends, and be a more emotionally safe person that people feel comfortable being with. So I guess first we can think about, like, what are we looking for, right? And then think about, okay, are we that? So, like, Carlie, what things make you feel emotionally safe with other people?
I when I feel emotionally safe with people, I feel like I can be myself, and in order for me to be able to do that, I have to feel like there's a space for honesty and like no non-judgment, like that they're not going to be judging me or be very harsh about who I am or have very like harsh things. I'm not opposed to the truth, so I also really like honest people and honest feedback. I don't like yes people in my life. I need people to help me grow. Like that's what I do too. So I want that back from folks. So let's see, honesty, non-judgment, emotionally safe. Openness, like open-minded people too, but I guess that's like the non-judgmental part, like open-mindedness that we can talk about all kind of things, and I don't feel like I'm gonna be condemned. That's kind of where I'm starting.
Yeah, because when I think about like somebody who's non-judgmental, like to put it in kind of real layman-ish, it's things like, you know, when you could talk to somebody, and I'm very good to get this actually, but that's what I know. Things like when you say something to people and like, you know, they start making a face or like, because people will tell me all the time, like they shut down or they feel like I'm judging. I'm like, I'm just reacting, but I'm not really judging. I'm just making a lot of reactions. Or if they interrupt you, or if they try to tell you like, well, you should, you know, telling you what you should do and all these things. So I think a lot of it can be like body language and you know, sucking your teeth and things like that you might not think about. I think what makes me feel emotionally safe. I'm trying to think of other things besides what you've already said.
When someone listens, I guess that's just more so going on to what you said. Like when I feel
like what
I'm gonna say, really. It would be heard. Like I like to feel seen and heard, like in relationships or when I'm present with someone who's present with me, and that doesn't mean they can't ever be on their phone, but like they can't always be on their phone. You know, it's like a balance.
I wouldn't say that's like the safe part as much. I know. So for me, then maybe this is tied into everything you already kind of said, but what makes me feel emotionally safe is when I can being able to express how I feel, because you really cannot always do that. But not just expressing how I feel, but expressing how I feel, and I'm actually saying, oh, that's valid. What can I do different? Like, I've never experienced that until recently. Because as soon as you kind of say, like, hey, I feel kind of like XYZ. And I even, you know, I know all the tools about, like, don't be like, oh, you always doing this. So even when you try to do it the right way and you're like, you know, I'm feeling like you're not really listening to me right now. And they're like, I'm always listening to you. You always say this because I'm on the phone or, you know, whatever. And it's just really nice. I feel mostly safe if somebody's like, oh, I'm hearing you, like you don't feel like you're being listened to, like, so what can I do? Or like they're actually trying or paying attention, and not being defensive. I think that's really, it's hard for me to not be defensive. Like I'm more defensive actually. No, she didn't. I almost called you out your name on this podcast. She was a little too hype. Anyway, pause the podcast for a second.
See what happens behind these closed doors.
I had to hit you with that Ike look back. Anyway, yes, that's what makes me feel emotionally safe. And so, am I those things? I guess that's what we're getting to. Not always.
No, I don't think anybody is always right, but there are definitely more consistent people. But like, this was on my soul because I saw a tweet and it was like, you know, it'd be the same people who are like lying to their therapist and doing all that, like an agreement, like, oh, we're growing and doing all this stuff. And I think so often, like, we want to be these things for people that we're not taking the time to be introspective, to really check ourselves. And so,
say that again. We're doing what?
I was saying that
you can say the exact words. I couldn't quite process.
A lot of people, I think, want to be in an emotionally safe relationship and want to be with someone who's doing the work, but so often not looking at themselves and how they can improve. And I'm just reiterating what you said at the beginning about actually taking the time to be introspective for yourself.
Yeah, I think most people like or want to see themselves as a victim more so. And so that's why we're always talking about what everybody else is doing.
Yeah. But look at yourself, player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at yourself because
now that I have a partner who's super not defensive, now I'm like, damn, I'm always like the bad guy of anything. And it's like, logically, you know, I'm doing this podcast, I know things, and whatever. I could be very aware, and yet my instincts is like turn up before I like before I actually like stop. You know what I mean? So I still have to catch myself. Even though I'm like, shoot, like I know what I should be doing. I still have to very much practice because I'm like, that's not easy for somebody to tell you like, yeah, you messing up, and to be like,
damn, you right.
let me know how else am I messing up? Like that's not natural for me. And so even though you know, it's like, all right, you really got to practice these things.
In some ways, if you're like, no, I'm still great and all that, some ways you can know that you might not be an emotionally safe person, or that you might need to work on some things if no one ever asks you for advice or opens up to you. Like, I think that that's a telltale sign that there actually might be some things you need to work on if nobody's coming to you for things.
Yeah. And if all of your conflicts end up just like blowing up, like if you can't just resolve them, and that's why it's so crazy now to be like, oh, if you say something and somebody's just like, okay, that's almost like tough because you almost are ready to like keep going back and forth or like to explain yourself. And so it's almost weird for it to not blow up, and yet that's actually more healthy. So if you're always like back and forth about everything, and it's like, okay, you think they're not listening and you're blaming them for not listening, but you're probably not listening either. And so it's kind of just going in a circle.
Yeah, and looking at those patterns, like if you often get accused of not listening or being defensive or always doing a thing, like there might be some truth to it. And I know it's much easier to want to defend your honor in these situations, but those might be times where you can actually kind of sit back and be like, damn, this, maybe you are defensive because you were with a partner who caused you to be like that. And that's okay that you do it, but now you don't have to. And these habits aren't really helping you be a better person for yourself or in relationships.
And look at what's so common about all these things, right? You said when you're feeling emotionally safe, you feel heard. With this, if no one ever asks you anything or nobody ever wants to open up to you, that you probably don't make them feel heard, or like they don't feel heard, so why am I going to ask you anything? A lot of people are like that with me, and they're like, I don't really want to, or if they ask me something, it might be about work or something else, but certain things they'd be like, I don't really want to hear it. If your conflicts keep blowing up, you're not hearing the other person because you're not giving them like anything. If people are like, you're being defensive, you're not listening, they're not feeling heard. And so you're equally, if not the main one, guilty as well of not making an emotionally safe space if those things are happening often. And I think emotional safety, emotional safety is obviously a good thing for relationships, and this is romantic relationships, friend relationships, family, whatever. But emotional safety is important because, to Carlie's base point at the beginning, you can't be yourself if you cannot express how you feel. You can't be yourself if you're always holding something back. If you can't be yourself, you can't be intimate. You can't have connection with people. You can't have connection with people. Like it just goes on and on of like you're not having a real relationship. You're not having a healthy relationship, and it's not very authentic because it's like you're holding things back, and that's okay also because like every relationship don't gotta be like OD authentic and we're all emotionally whatever, but you can. I don't want to say it's not hard, but like it would be good practice to be emotionally safe for everybody, not for everybody to step on you, but like that just means that you are somebody that people can be open with, that they can trust, that they can talk to. And that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah, and I would say that, in your most intimate relationships are the people that you consider yourself the closest to. Look at these spaces, because I want to like echo the fact that, not everybody deserves to get, the full version of you. And, if they haven't shown that you can trust them with it, and that's cool. But like for the people who you're supposed to be sharing that stuff with, are you? Or do you feel like there are parts of yourself you got to hold back? Or do you feel like they're holding stuff back? You know what I mean? And it's just really looking at it.
What's also interesting is that a lot of times there's more emotional safety with friends than it can be in a relationship. And I think a lot of that could be because of we're holding ourselves back because we're trying to be something, or you want to be seen a certain way or whatever, right? And it's almost like you could be more yourself with like people that doesn't feel like it's on the line. Like, why are we're not scared for real of like losing friendships? Like you're like scared of like losing your relationship and things like that. And I think that's always so interesting. And yet your relationships with your friends be better relationships because of that.
That's what I was about to say. It only gets better. And so it's only recently that I've even felt like with my current partner, that this is the first person I've dated that I could say, you know, I'm my whole self with. Like, whole self. And I'm like, oh, wow, at my big age, like, I've dated people like damn. But it also is such a beautiful thing to be able to, like, viscerally be yourself and not, like, feel like you got to hide stuff.
And now I'm thinking about, like, who is the most person I feel the most emotionally safe with? And for me, I would think it's the person I feel like I tell anything to. And it's so weird because I would definitely say my friend Kyle, again, who we were talking about earlier, even though he roasts me to death and he's so, like, rude and mean to me and jokey in a weird way. And yet he's also, like, he always, like, sees through me and be like, all right, now how you really doing for real? Like, he really asks me questions. And when I talk to him, he really, like, listens. And he really is, like, a good therapist. I always joke with him and tell him his check's in the mail. But, like, you know, when people can just ask you questions and let you kind of arrive to stuff, like, he doesn't judge. He'll be like, so, you know, I was talking to him this morning. He was like, well, you know, what are you trying to get across when you're arguing? Are you trying to get this done, or are you trying to just be right? Or, like, so he'll, like, ask you questions and make you think and stuff. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I could tell him, I've told him, like, if I boo-boo on myself, like, I'll tell him anything and he just will laugh at me, but, like, he won't care. So I like stuff like that. And it's like, well, that's how you should be able to be with anybody you consider somebody who's, like, definitely a partner and definitely a close friend or whatever like that. But also you can only be like that if you are a vulnerable person, I think, too. And I think for people sometimes who wish they could get more emotional safety, sometimes you do need to practice it more and, like, you be the person to, like, be vulnerable with other people, which kind of then shows them that they can kind of trust you too. That's usually the advice I've given to people who ask me, like, man, this person, they're like, somebody's not really opening up to them. And it's like, well, you try doing that and, like, just kind of see what happens, because sometimes they're not going to trust you because you expect people to come to you with all their stuff and they don't know nothing about you. You're not expressing that. So they think you're like, well, you're too strong. I don't want to bother you. I don't want to talk to you. And yet we're all, like, struggling with stuff and, you know, going through stuff in the same type of way. And so being an emotionally safe person is, you know, being there for other people and not judging and listening to them. But I think it's also you practicing vulnerability and sharing as well.
And I think that's a great first step, like, to become a more emotionally safe person, is practice vulnerability. Like, what are you sharing? What can you share? What do you tend to hold back? And kind of, like, looking within yourself and seeing where those places where you might be able to open up a little bit. And that, I think that people are scared to be vulnerable because it opens you up to hurt, or what if they use this against me, or what if they say this? Or
because it opens you to judgment.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's like, well, if we're trying to have a relationship where we're not judging, you got to give them an opportunity to not judge you.
Because then you'll never know.
Some other things an emotionally safe person does. So these are things that we can all work on here. Practicing active listening. And we've talked about this in episode 114 called Are You Listening? If you want to go back to that, it was all about how to be a better listener. But people want to feel heard and validated and secure. And that one's pretty obvious. So being a good listener and an active listener is very important.
And reiterating, like, being transparent, vulnerable, making sure that you're not hiding things. Like, in the past in relationships, you might have felt like you had to tiptoe around things or hide or did this because a partner was super jealous and you couldn't tell them that you were going to go hang out with your friends. But I challenge you, like, in safe relationships, not abusive ones, to practice, like, opening up those spaces. Like, hey, I'm going to go on vacation. I'm going to go hang out with my homeboy, even though you're dating, like, a male, you know. So maybe your ex wasn't comfortable with that, but now you're practicing just being honest and open with what's going on.
Yeah, and when you're transparent, I feel like other people don't feel like they need to hide things as much, so they will be more open with you. So that's one of those things that works both ways, too. Being non-judgmental, for sure. We already really talked about that. Like, literally try to give your partner the benefit of the doubt and listen to them. We talked about how to be less judgy in episode 153, if you want to go back.
That was a good one, so go ahead and run that back.
Yeah, I remember that one was good.
Another one is showing kindness. So just being kind to your partner, and in the same way.
That's what I keep hearing, that I'm just too mean. I'm like, dang, what else can I do? What more do you want from me? I'm like, oh, this stuff I do, and I'm still mean. They be like, yeah, but at the end of the day, they be like, yeah, but you be being mean. I'm like, all right, whatever. I'm about to throw in the towel.
Well, in that same vein, you could also set boundaries and respect boundaries. We've talked all about that in episode 53, set your boundaries, and we might actually need to run an episode back on that because it's been a lot of conversation I've seen lately and people asking me questions. I know, bro, but it's so important. So episode 53. Check that out.
I'm going to set my boundary and not talk about it. Pay attention to your body language. So tones, expressions, they can display disrespect. They seem like you don't care, like you're not listening. And those are things I talked about at the beginning. That's something we can easily slip into. And if you just practice like maintaining like actual straight face and paying attention, that will make a world of difference, because you might not realize that you're doing it, but when other people do that to you, you definitely do feel disrespected. So that's something to definitely pay attention to.
Yep. And then fostering your own accountability and follow through. So making sure you do what you're going, like what you say you were going to do. Like show up when you said, call when you said, showing that you're dependable and that you really value the person and the relationship. Like I think that goes a long way to make someone feel seen and heard and valued in your space. And we talked about this in episode 170. So stop making excuses and accept responsibility. Own your stuff.
Yeah, and it's so funny because it's like, even the little things. Like, I hate when people be like, oh, I'm going to call you right back. And, like, you know it's a thing you can just say, but also it's like, just don't say that if you're not about to call me back for real. Like, I don't know. All those little things kind of bother me. Like, it's so important. And everybody's story is different, right? Everybody has kind of different triggers and different things. So, for me, that is a big one. Like, because people have talked so much. And then it's like, you kind of get confused when you're dealing with people who talk a lot. And then they're always falling short of what they do. And it's like, they're trying to tell you like, oh, I really mean this, but they don't do it, and they really can play with you. So that's huge for me. It's like, just like say what you're gonna do and like actually do that.
Be who you say that you are. Like show up like that.
Yeah, like that's okay.
Because then if you're not worth your salt, then I can't really trust anything that you're saying or doing. And I think one more that I'm going to add is apologizing when you're wrong, like actually That's apologizing. Good. We talked about this in episode 125. Please run that one back, like before maybe any of the rest of these, like an actual apology, what that looks like, sounds like, and feels like is so important and can help repair a lot of relationships, because inevitably we're all going to mess up at some point and need to apologize. But what does that actually look like to follow through and take responsibility afterwards?
That's very important. And then it's also important as we close out to recognize, like, just because you are an emotionally safe person, or if you're in a relationship or, you know, have friendships that are emotionally safe, that doesn't mean, like, you're never going to have conflict. So things happen. People disagree. You know, people have value clashes, etc. But being an emotionally safe person, I think, means that there's always respect. So, and this is where I struggle because I start mocking people. I start going ham. Like once I turned up, it's over. And that's why I get called mean, because they're like, oh, you're not respecting me. Anyway, so it doesn't mean you're never going to make people mad and that you're not going to have conflict. But that's so important to like respect each other, listen to each other, because it is valid. Like whatever their feelings are valid. And you can hear them and respond to them in a respectful way.
Yeah, especially when like it's something you don't like, something that you don't agree with. You can validate someone's emotions and disagree. Like those can coexist. And I think that it's so hard because like a lot of us, or I can just speak for myself, didn't learn about any of this stuff and didn't practice it growing up and didn't see a lot of healthy examples when it comes to relationships and ways to, you know, be accountable and to let people be who they are and grow in a healthy way. And so just making sure that you're practicing all of this, because it's really the best way to help you have better relationships, like with yourself and with other people, is the best way to help you make sure your needs are getting met, to make sure that you're meeting their needs, because they might not even feel comfortable communicating them if you are not emotionally safe for them.
And I know for me, where my lack of being emotionally safe stems from is being perfect. And so if in my head I'm like, all right, I know I'm trying to be perfect, and I'm like, I'm so great, it's really hard to hear and see people say things about me like, I'm not being mean, you're da-da-da-da. Like, and it's hard for me to listen because I know everything. Like, so since I'm so perfect, like, I'm not a safe person for an imperfect person. And that's where I be clashing. So for a lot of people who are like perfectionists and things of that nature, that's why sometimes it can come off in that way, or like it has changed into that because you're so used to being like either hyped up and or having certain standards growing up or whatever, that it's like it's so hard for you to just like see what's really going on. And it's so hard for you to not be right in all of those things. But I'm very often apparently not right. I don't know. But anyway, I'm going to work on it. I'm going to be a nicer person in 2024. Because I'm still on my BS. A few more months. Yeah. I'm still waiting for the meds to kick in all the way. Although that's helping. But yeah, so hopefully this was an interesting combo for you guys to think about yourself. Again, like, I don't want you to send this to everybody talking about, you need to listen to this. Yeah. I want you to listen to it. You take some notes. How can you be a more emotionally safe person? And also, like, think about because again, it's hard for us to think about ourselves. Think about, like, the people who blow you because they're not emotionally safe. And now think about, like, what could you do different in that same relationship that could actually help that turn around, which is probably you being more emotionally safe for them. So think about that this week.
Yeah, and look at this as an opportunity to grow, to improve things in your life. Hit us at Carlie's Couch on all the platforms and let us know what you're working on, because all of us are working on something. Or need to be working on something. Or need to be working on something.
Some of y'all working on this.
Some of y'all. We hopefully everyone, though. We can all keep getting better and loving on ourselves and others.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, hit us. We love to hear from you. And thanks for all of y'all's participation on Questions from the Couch.
Yeah, y'all need to find some better songs. I ain't gonna hold y'all.
I knew she was coming.
I ain't gonna hold y'all. Y'all need some. But I guess I can't say nothing because I'm sitting here and, like, not giving y'all no songs. So follow me on Tidal, Lextopia. But I got, like, Bossa Nova, so y'all probably gonna be like, oh, you lame. Anyway, so whatever. Listen to Bossa Nova if you need to calm down, though. It's really actually charming music.
We should have put that on the last episode.
We should have. That's it. Bye-bye, y'all.
Bye, y'all.